taking you on a journey through the world of music, from old school hits and classics to today's biggest projects. The only station that covers heavy metal to hip hop and R&B and everything in between. The sound of the people is CTR.
Hey guys, welcome to a very special edition of the CTR podcast. You know who I am. Today is a first for the channel. We have got an interview coming up for you. It's going to be a very, very long episode. So, if you're into the long episodes that we put up, then, luckily for you, you've got, you're going to have your fill in today. It's going to be at least over an hour. So I hope you enjoy that. But before we get into the interview that I did with my mate Liz, shout out to Liz for doing it, by the way. I couldn't have asked for a better first guest. Like, she was absolutely amazing, and I think it went pretty well. So before we get into that, I do just want to quickly say, I was going to talk about the whole the song that 6ix9ine brought out on, I think it was Thursday or Friday. I said I was going to talk about it that day, and I didn't. We mentioned it a little bit of context for you in this interview. This interview was recorded on Friday, and we mentioned it a little bit. But if you want my opinion on it, it's okay. It's gone on to break records that he previously set for was it Goober that I brought out last month, I believe. That broke the record, Eminem's record, and then now this Trolls has broke the record for Goober. The most listens in the first 24 hours. I think it got like 49 million listens in the first 24 hours in less than 24 hours. So congratulations to 6ix9ine and Nicki Minaj on that. If anything, if I'm being honest with you, I mean, it's not the quality of the song that got the views. Obviously, it's it's 6ix9ine, and he will always get the big numbers as long as he's trending. I think it's everyone was just shocked that someone like Nicki Minaj would work with him, and they went on to explain why, and do an Instagram live video just to explain why they were working with each other. It's a really fascinating watch. You can probably find it online somewhere. But yeah, it's an okay song. I like it. I enjoy it. It sounds like Kika that he did with, was it Kika or Mama? So many fucking weird names that he has on his songs, but it sounds like Mama that he did with Kanye West and Nicki Minaj on his last album. It sounds like a combination of that and let's just say Fifi, I suppose. But yeah, it's an okay song. But for now, guys, you're not going to be hearing from me, today on Sunday. We're going to cut to the interview that I did on Friday. So I hope you enjoy it, guys. I will catch you after it. Peace out.
CTR.
So if I'm as good as host as I think I am, I'm pretty sure I probably introduced this segment while I was on the podcast, so doesn't really need any further ado. I'm talking to my mate Liz today, and we're just going to be talking about bullshit. Literally just going to be spouting shit today, as we usually do. But we're going to be trying to push it in a direction. As I say, we're going to be talking about the women of music today, and I'm going to be focusing mainly on the list that she sent me in. For the top 10, because it mentions most of them, to be honest with you. Liz, you were the only person who had mainly women in your list, and I think that kind of shows how different people's mindsets are towards music today. Do you want to go through some of the people that you mentioned on your list?
Well, to be honest, I can't remember, but I do remember some off the top of my head.
Okay.
I put, music, women in music are just dope because they have so much more shit to deal with than guys do. I think I definitely put Camila on there because she's my absolute all-time fave.
Correct.
And got you liking her as well.
You did, to be fair.
She's a pretty decent songwriter. But she's my all-time favourite because she was in Fifth Harmony, and that was very controlled, by Simon Cowell. So they were the Little Mix of America. They all auditioned as solo artists, and then Simon Cowell was like, "Oh, let's put a girl band together," like he did with Little Mix in the UK. I think that it was around the same time as well, but I think the people of the girls in Fifth Harmony were a lot younger than the ones in Little Mix.
Okay.
And he put them together, and they were very controlled. They didn't speak about it for the first part, so they've only done 2 albums whilst it was all the members. And the first album, they kept very quiet about it. And then the second album, towards the end of the second album, like when they were finalising it and everything like that, they were speaking out a lot more about how much they are not in control. So one of the things was people write the songs. Simon Cowell just goes, write a load of songs for these people, just make them hits, make them get on the radio. And they'll write the songs, and the girls just get invited to a week, like a bit like a holiday, except it's like your worst nightmare.
Yeah.
And there's 5 different rooms because there's 5 different members. Go and live in this house for a week. Each room has a different recording studio, and so each member will start off in each different room, and they will read the music, and they will sing that whole song from start to finish, and they'll probably do it about from like 1 time to 10 times or more, just to get everything perfect, even though they won't be singing the full song. And then once that bit's done, and they spent about 2 hours in that room, they'll go to the next recording booth. There'll be a different song, same sort of process. And then they don't really get any input into the creative side of it, so they don't write their own music, they just sing it, and then people put it together, and then they hear it and learn the parts of that song.
Staying on that for a second, I remember you saying that had a lot to do with the contracts that they were in at the time, and even in now, like what's going on with like a couple of the people who are still with Simon Cowell's record label. Is that right?
Yeah. So, in Fifth Harmony, you've got Normani, who does a lot of Sam Smith songs. Or she's been on a lot of features. Sam Smith, Khalid. So you probably recognise her from the radio. There's Lauren, who's your favourite, Reese? She's on radio a lot. There's Ali, who has songs, and she's done quite a few songs with like Tiger and A Boogie with the Hoodah, but she hasn't really lifted off. And then there's Dinah Jane, who's also sort of the same as Ali. She's done a few songs with a few like name rappers, and it's just never hit anywhere. So they're all still signed with Simon Cowell. Even Camila's still signed with Simon Cowell, and that was part of like the contract of her leaving Fifth Harmony. She had to still stay with Simon Cowell and Epic Records, because Psycho, the label, is owned by Epic Records. So all the girls are signed by Epic and Psycho, and they have to stay with them for a certain amount of years and make certain amount of songs. So that's why when Camila left, it was a bit like she wasn't able to actually leave the contract. She just had to switch it over to be a solo artist, and there was a lot of controversy around that.
She was still handcuffed, essentially.
Yeah, I think she wanted to go to a different label, but this was like part of her leaving Fifth Harmony early. Fifth Harmony isn't done, even though they say they're on a break. That's part of the contract, because Fifth Harmony is never going to be done. Like, is One Direction ever going to be done? So
they've recently just announced a tour as well, coming back, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think they're releasing a new album on the 23rd of July. So it's a bit like that. They're never going to go away. Fifth Harmony is always still going to be a thing, and the solo artists still have to be signed for as long as their contract is. But a lot of it is they signed it when they were young, and that's why they don't get a lot of creative direction over the songs, because I think, for example, Camila and Lauren, they're a year apart. They were both 15 and 16 when they both signed the contracts with Psycho, and the family's not going to know about it. Like, for example, Camila, because she's the one I know most about, she's from quite a poor background, so her family wouldn't have had the knowledge on any contracts. She wouldn't have been able to hire anyone to overlook the contract. So she would have just signed that, and this is why she's in like the situation she is, and this is why they never had any creative direction over the songs.
I suppose at the time, I suppose at the time, all they saw, it was like just a way out, basically, how to change your life and, you know, the family.
Yeah, it's like they go on X Factor and they think, oh, this is going to be my life now, hopefully going to better it for my family, and then they get trapped in this contract. Now, Fifth Harmony were really annoyed about it in the 727, which is their second album, because obviously they didn't have any creative direction over it, not the music videos, the outfits they wore, the interviews they did, the concerts they did. They didn't have any input on it. They were getting paid very little because a lot of the proceeds went to the label. Like, for example, the first tour, they were doing little concerts because obviously people didn't know who they were still, and they were opening for like Austin Mahone, and this is a guy you don't hear of anymore. He was big back then, but he wasn't even that big, and they used to open for him, and they used to have to make their own stage outfits and stuff like that. Then the second one, they got their own, the second tour and the second album, they got their own stage outfits and stuff like that. But they were still not getting paid a lot. So you see a lot of these rappers, for like example, like Nicki and 6ix9ine, because of their new music video, you see him like flexing with loads, $100,000, designer gear, his big chains. These girls didn't have that. They were like, essentially, the clothes they were getting, it would be like where I get my clothes from, like New Look or Topshop, or they didn't own anything designer. They didn't have the money to, because they weren't getting paid that sort of salary. It was all going to the proceeds of the label.
So what it sounds like is the record label basically using these young girls as like a cash cow, and them pouring a lot of money into the record label and them not really seeing that much out of it.
Yeah, Lauren was the one that actually spoke out about it. There's a clip somewhere on YouTube. Someone recorded it. It's like a voice memo, and she says to Ali, who's the oldest member of Fifth Harmony, she says, they're treating us like literal fucking slaves, and they're her words exact. And that was during the 727 tour, and you'd think they were big then. They had Work From Home, they had Boss, they had Sledgehammer, they had Worth It with Kid Ink. So they had all these songs that people all around the world knew, and you'd think they were like getting all this money, but no, they were like being treated as slaves. They were working all the time. And these aren't the only girl group to come out about it as well. They haven't really said much on it other than what the leaked audio has been and like tweets and stuff like that. But Little Mix have just recently moved record labels because they were signed under Psycho and Epic, and they were not happy about how they didn't have a lot of direction and control over the music, what they were singing, the music videos, their outfits. So they were like, so they've just moved record labels, and now since they've moved record labels, they've done a lot of interviews about it, saying they were treated badly, and they're so happier in this new record label. They do everything themselves, from directing music videos to writing their own songs, rather than just being in this house where you go from room to room singing the same song.
Yeah.
So that's why I admire them a lot, because they've been through hell, and then like Camila's the one that's like come out of it early because she couldn't cope with it. A lot of her fans were worried for her towards like halfway through the last tour together, because she was struggling. She looked ill all the time. She ended up in hospital from like dehydration and stuff like that quite a few times.
Stuff like that's got to have an effect on your mental health as well. And as you say, like Psycho is one of the examples of, I mean, because it comes straight from these like reality shows like Britain's Got Talent, X Factor, American Voice, all that type of stuff. But with Simon Cowell's record label, it's a great example of young people getting into record contracts that they don't quite understand, and then not being able to get out of them because of the mistakes that they made when they were younger. And I suppose Fifth Harmony and Little Mix are very similar in that situation, just because, I mean, they've had identical successful careers up until a certain point. Obviously, you see now Fifth Harmony, certain women in that group are making it on their own by themselves, and you've got to think eventually Little Mix are all going to go in that same direction. But it sounds like both of them like face similar barriers, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, like since Camila's left Fifth Harmony, like she left early, she still is signed with like Psycho and Epic Records.
Yeah,
She has had a lot more creative control over her writing, over her music. So as soon as she left, she did a few singles that weren't released on the radio. I know one of yours is "Oh My God," which she did with Quavo, which is really good.
Shout out to that song.
Yeah, so good. Never got released to the radio, as well as quite a few of her other songs that she did, like "Crying in the Club." It played a few times on British radio, but didn't really hear it a lot, and it wasn't played that much in America. And then her first album, it was sort of like her like learning the process of writing an album, doing the music videos, doing the tour. And then in her second album, she has grown so much, and she's got a lot more creative control over it. So her first album, she wrote it with Ryan Tedder. He's from, I want to say, One Republic. He's the main singer in One Republic. And he's quite, he's wrote a lot of like Katy Perry songs, so like them cheesy pop songs. So her first album's like, it's good. I still love it, but it's a bit like cheesy pop with not like a lot of meaning to the lyrics. And then the second album, she wrote it with Billie Eilish's brother, Phineas, and the lyrics are more in depth. She and him like just rented out a house, and they just lived there for a while. But she's one of my favourite because she's gone through all of that, and she also has to face so much criticism as a woman, like because you're doing women in music. Women face a lot more criticism in the music industry with how they look, what they wear, what they sing about, whereas guys can sing about anything and they're praised. One of them is like G-Eazy. He sings about a lot of bad things and nobody says anything. It's like, oh, he's got such a good tune out. If Camila was to sing about that, then everyone would be like, why are you singing about that? Why are you wearing that? And stuff like that. So it's a lot harder for women in any industry. They do get criticised a lot more than men.
This is a thing that why I wanted to do this month of women's music, because I wanted to highlight this sort of stuff. Because an example, and going back to groups like Little Mix and Fifth Harmony, who made the name by obviously making great music for the people who followed them at the time, but also were used as, and when I say cash cow before, I don't just mean the hits that they produce. They were made, and we talked about this in a previous conversation. You're talking about the outfits, sort of using them as a sex symbol when they don't really want to be seen as that. And this is where things and horrible things such as pretty privilege comes into the conversation, and when it comes to people being recognized not for the quality of the music that they put out, it comes to you're pretty, so you've got a record deal.
Yeah, and they are like treated like a cash cow, exactly like you said. It's a great way to put it, especially by that label, because if you think about it, they all did audition Little Mix, One Direction and Fifth Harmony. They did all audition as solo artists, and then they were in the band for quite a few years, but that's not what they want to do because, for example, that might not be their genre of music. So like Dinah does a lot of R&B, Normani does a lot of features on different artists. She doesn't really have her own album out yet. And then like Lauren does a lot of Latin and Spanish music, so she does a lot of Latin American, so towards that population.
100%, that's a good point actually.
Yeah, so they did all audition as solo artists, and Simon Cowell gave him a chance, but it came with terms and conditions of you're in a girl group. So they might not have wanted that, but at the end, these girls are signed at such a young age. They just want to see. They just want to see the money. Like going back to Camila again, just because I know the most about her. Her mum and dad. Her mum's from Cuba and her dad's from Mexico. Her mum was an architect in Cuba and was quite a well-respected woman, but she moved to America so she would have a better chance at life. When Camila was about 6 or something, I don't even think her little sister was born then, but she wanted the kids to have a better chance at life. So she moved to America, and her husband, Camila's dad, could not get a visa. And Camila grew up for quite a while without her dad because he couldn't get a visa to come to America. They lived in a one-bedroom apartment that they shared with one of her mum's friends, and her mum got a job at like a shoe zone, and that's when she auditioned for X Factor. So she's coming from quite a poor background there, didn't have a lot of money. Her mum used to be this well-respected woman, did get paid a lot, and now she's on like minimum wage. Her dad isn't there, because I think at the time when she auditioned for X Factor, her dad was still stuck in Mexico, unable to get a visa. And then Simon Cowell's gone, you can be a pop star, you can make your life better, you can better yourself, but you have to be with these other girls.
Yeah, as you say, terms and conditions come into play.
Yeah, and there's going to be like tensions as well because they've never met before, so it's going to be quite awkward, and they've got to build friendships off that.
And you've got also, you talk about young women as well. You've got also five people there who believe in themselves, have a lot of confidence in themselves. Oh, and that's a lot of. I don't want to say the word egos because that sounds a bit harsh, but do you understand what I'm saying? You've got a lot of people not wanting to put their careers in other people's hands, and they've never met, and like, you know, I'm not going to fail because you're not putting the effort in. So that has to be there at the start. Yeah.
Well, that was a lot of the tension in Fifth Harmony because a lot of the songs, Camila sang 54% of the song. So she's singing much of the song, and then 4 girls have to share 50%. So a lot of tensions were high because of that. A lot of the fandom didn't like her.
That's actually a great segue. That I wanted to bring up naturally, and that's probably the best way to bring up. It's a great segue when you talk about Camila, should I say, having the lion's share of the music and, you know, the vocals. It's got to drive a wedge in the group, and eventually it did, because she went solo, and then a beef started between the group, didn't it?
Yeah, it happened like a lot of, and then like a lot of the songs, like the hit songs like Work From Home, she does the chorus in that as well as have her own verse and all the like ad libs and stuff.
Yeah.
I think she sings like 54% of that song, so you've got 46% there to share between these other 4 really talented girls. So obviously they're thinking, well, why are they always favouritising her? And then that's obviously is going to drive a wedge, and it did. But and then after she did leave, I think they had a concert maybe, or they do a lot of like rodeo concerts in America. I didn't know that was a thing, but it is a thing.
I've heard the term. I don't think I've ever seen one.
Oh, well, it's like at these famous rodeos across America, they just have like these big acts play for them. It's mental. But they had one of them, and it's just been like the week after Camila left, and they still used her backing vocals. Like they had her vocals playing on a speaker.
That's got to piss her off as well.
Yeah, well, a lot of people were annoyed with that, like obviously because Camila's fans were like, why are you still using her vocals? And then also their own fans were like, why would you use her vocals when you just ditched her? But it's obviously hard for them because that was like a week after she left, and she just left them and sort of like left them dry, sort of.
Yeah.
And they've never not performed with each other, so it's a hard scenario, to be fair.
100%.
Yeah, it's mental.
Because this sort of thing, like driving a wedge, is they definitely didn't want this, because as I say, it probably started out as like a tense relationship, but as you said, they got closer. And that was a conversation for another day. Like, you know, that the whole controversy and like the conspiracy theories that we talk about. But not to, like, you know, pity them too much, as I say, like, because, you know, they've all gone on to have successful careers. I don't want to, like, you know, draw it down to that one moment where, like, oh, and then after that they never became successful. But I'm sure, obviously, like the relationship never really was the same after that, because they remember what happened. No fault of their own, as you say. And I'm not just like bashing Simon Cowell and Psycho. This isn't, you know, just a Simon Cowell tear down sort of thing. But it's one of the major examples and what we talk about, which is why I wanted to mention it. But yeah, as you say, with Fifth Harmony is a great example. I want to talk about another sort of boundary. As I say, not to bash Cycle too much. Maybe move on a little bit to. I want to talk about Madison Beer a little bit, because you're a massive fan of Madison Beer as well. I want to get your thoughts on the I wouldn't say the controversy, maybe the situation that she's going through at the minute. This whole pretty privilege that we discussed briefly before. She's recently come out and said about all the hate that she's got for the situation. Like, what do you think about that?
Well, she the problem with Madison Beer, if you haven't seen her, she looks like Megan Fox when Megan Fox is like 20 odd.
Yeah.
So she looks good, because who doesn't look good if you look like Megan Fox? I'd kill to look like Megan Fox.
Facts.
But what happened with Madison Beer? I don't know her full story, but she got noticed by Justin Bieber, and I don't know whether he signed her personally to his own record label, or whether he signed her to his record label that he's also signed to. But she got signed anyway because of Justin Bieber. He saw her on the internet. They did a song together. I think it was called Melodies. I'm not sure on her recent stuff, but she was about 14, 13 at the time, so she was quite young.
Yeah.
First got scouted by him. And then she's done a few songs, but they weren't her genre of music. I don't even know what to say her genre is. It's quite different. It is pop, but it's like different to what you hear on the radio.
If I was to compare it to anything, and maybe this is a lot of like a massive compliment for someone so young, I would compare it to sort of like a Rihanna style, but more merging into like sort of hip hop.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Well, like, do you know who Tame Impala are? She says she like gets her ideas from them.
Okay.
They're I want to say like indie, but they're a bit like, I don't know, they're a bit electro, and I don't know. But she was doing all these cheesy pop songs that were hitting the radios. Little girls loved them. It was like One Direction with What Makes You Beautiful. It was just playing all the time.
Let's
and then she went silent for a few years. And then she started to release her own music, but she left the record label that she was signed to because of Justin Bieber, because she didn't like the way they were handling her. They were signing up her to do like photo shoots and stuff like that. And she is very good looking, but she's very self-conscious. Like, I think a lot of people are.
Yeah.
But she didn't like it, and she didn't like the way they were directing the music videos or the songs they were writing for her. She wanted more hands-in approach on like the direction point of view and the creative side of it. She left her record label and decided to go on her own, which is quite a brave thing to do.
100%, especially at that age. I mean, she's still young now, isn't she?
Yeah, I think she was about 18 when she decided this. She then dated a guy called Jack Jelinski, I want to say his name is. He's from Jack and Jack. They're sort of like a duo, rap / pop. but she dated him and a lot of bad things happened with him, and that was when her music had she'd just gone on her own and her first music was coming out, so she got a lot of backlash for that. But that's a story for another time. But when she went out on her own, she started doing her own music videos, and they're quite creative when you look at them, and like they're very good. And they always say at the end, like, directed by Madison Beer, because she's directed them all.
Just to cut in, by the way, like not to cut you off on your thought there. If you've never actually seen her live or any of the videos like live, she's I agree with that. She's very, very, very talented. I think I first saw her live when I saw a video of Fools that she did. This Fools is one of the songs. I think you sent me that actually.
Yeah, that song is very good. She uses I want to say like a voice recorder or a voice box.
It's like one of the robot mic things where it like sort of like hears the air that's coming out your mouth, isn't it?
Yeah, it's mental. But she is very creative in music videos and everything else. And when she went on her own, obviously she had to like post about it all the time. But she's a year older than me, so she's still quite young. And she obviously, you see a lot of girls nowadays, they post in the bikinis on their Instagram. I personally wouldn't do it. That's just because I'm really self-conscious. But girls are showing off like how good they look. Like they're like, I look good, so I'm going to post it because I feel great about myself. Now she would do something like that, or she might go to Coachella, for example, and wear like a risky outfit. Not risky because it's a festival, that's the normal outfit for a festival, but because it gets photographed and because we're in the like digital age, and it gets broadcasted everywhere, and their articles start coming off calling her a lot of people call her a slag, and I don't know why, because to everyone's knowledge she's only ever had 2 boyfriends and she's 21, so since 18, because the age in America is 18, that's 3 years. I don't think that's bad at all. They call her
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, they call her on her looks. They say she looks too plastic. She's had work done. She has had work done, but not to the extent as other people. She's had lip fillers. But if you see what she looked like when she was a bit younger before she got that, she did have quite thin lips. So that's just something she wanted to do about herself. She wanted to feel good about herself, and that's obviously one thing she didn't like. So she changed it, and it's honestly, it's not even a big deal. You can hardly, like, you can't tell. They look very natural. They're not like some of the dodgy lips you see out here. But people say she's had jaw reconstruction, nose job. Then they call her because she's got big ears, and they call her because she hasn't had them pinned back. So she can't ever win. When she does a music video, like in one of the music videos, she's wearing quite a tight full length bodysuit, a bit like Black Widow, but it's grey, and it's not really very revealing because she's got it zipped all the way up. And basically the whole concept of the music video is that she's being tested in a lab, so it looks like she is being tested in a lab. And people were calling her for that, saying you're only wearing that so people will view your video and stuff like that. So for such a young woman, she's been bashed and hated a lot, and I don't know how she copes. She does tweet about it sometimes, and she does write stories on it on Instagram when it gets too much for her. But I've personally had to stick up for her before, and she's noticed me and said thanks.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I remember you sending me a screenshot of it getting back to you.
Oh, that was the best day of my life. I will never forget it, Reese. But she is, as well as everything else, she's bisexual, but she doesn't like to put labels on it, because why should you put labels on it? It's the 21st century.
Of course.
Love is love. That's my view on it anyway. And people were calling her because she kissed a girl at a festival, and everyone was like, oh, she's just doing it to queer bait. she's doing it to get attention. She's misleading. It's bad for the LGBT community. Now, she said multiple times, like, she is bisexual, but why should she have to put a label in it? She don't need to mention it every time she has an interview.
It's nobody else's business. So it's hers and hers alone. Like,
at the end of the day, she's 21. She's living her life, but she's always under sort of like this microscope by the media. Now, what's bad is I can't remember what they call it. Is it like TMZ, where they follow celebrities around Hollywood and they just record them?
Yeah, very famous tabloid news, TMZ. Yeah, they were famous. If people don't know who TMZ are, by the way, sorry, just to cut in.
No.
TMZ are mainly responsible for most of like the live action stuff that you're seeing. I know we talk about them a lot on this channel, but they're the people who captured the video of 6ix9ine getting beat up at the airport. I don't know if you remember that back in 2018. That's just a little background on TMZ. That's who they are, and they're very intrusive. They follow people around. They wait at the airports. They wait outside shops on Rodeo, etc. Basically, a massive tabloid news. But sorry, Liz, continue.
Yeah, no, but there's like loads of them now, so it's a joke. But she always gets followed around Hollywood, LA, wherever she is. She always gets followed around. And they put the camera in her face. Like, she had her 21st, because she's only recently turned 21. She had her 21st the other month before, obviously, the whole coronavirus thing. And they were outside her venue all night waiting for her to come out so they could get some photos of her drunk and some videos.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, so it's a lot for her to handle as well. She has talked about like mental health before and how she suffers badly from it because she's always been under the spotlight. She's been scrutinised for everything. She's been scrutinised for getting work done, for not getting work done, for looking the way she is, for not looking pretty enough. She's been scrutinised for dating. It just makes
seems like a bit of a recurring situation, like young women getting into music at a very young age, and coming out later on in life that they've got I say later on, I mean even a couple of years later, so like they're suffering from mental health, and you can't really blame it. Like, going back to what you were saying, even you before, and I feel like this is what's wrong with society. You said she had some work done on her lips and all that sort of stuff, and then I mean, like, as a society, you have to sort of like go, but it wasn't that much. And I think that's the way we've got to change the looking at things, because who cares how much she had, if that makes sense? Like, you can't. Who cares? Like, if someone died, went to plastic surgery and said, "Can you dye me green?" and they came out green, like, okay, they look different, but they still make banging music. Of course they do.
Yeah. And it's their choice at the end of the day. At the end of the day, people need to realise that all these girls, and the lads get it as well,
Of course.
they're just human. There's, like, you wouldn't say that to someone on the street. You wouldn't walk up to them and go, "You've had work done, you," or "You need to pin your hair back, they're too big." You just don't say that. But because they're constantly under the spotlight and constantly being scrutinised or followed around, like that is stalking at the end of the day. It's honestly blows my mind.
And that's exactly what it is. And it's the age that we live in. Like, we go back to, let's say, the 1980s, even up to the early 2000s, back when the internet wasn't such a big presence. People talk about how it was back in the day when people could wear whatever they want. I mean, you saw like Madonna, you saw Britney Spears, you saw David Bowie, you saw Boy George coming out dressing as however they want. And yeah, they got some looks for it and everything, but at the time they didn't have, Instagram, Snapchat, everything. They didn't have people in their comment section 24/7 saying you look different, you should change what you're doing, you're just doing it for clout, blah 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 blah. But people mainly, like, I mean, you look back at it and people say, yeah, they look weird, but how many great songs did people like Madonna, people like Bowie make? And a sort of like, that the character was that they, looked different, that, like, that they did it, they did it to get attention, but the main focus was on music. And I feel like we're losing that in this day and age. And I keep drumming on about this. Yeah, obviously the men do suffer from this to an extent, but I feel like more, and as a guy, I mean, it's hard for me to talk about it because I feel like I feel like like I'm standing up way too much for it. But I think it's true that I do think that women suffer from it a little bit more in terms of like, ratio. You see it a lot. You see it coming out in more news a lot. I was exploited when I was younger because they wanted to sell more albums. I mean, the earliest example I could think of that is, and this is just off the top of my head, Britney Spears. Britney Spears was used as a sex symbol, but not nowhere near to an extent as I feel like the women of today are, as we were talking about. If that makes sense, Liz.
Well, I don't know if you know like much about Kesha, and I certainly don't know much about Kesha. I do like.
I know where you're going with this. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was going to mention Taylor Swift, but then
this is a great story, by the way.
Yeah, but she, her manager was it a manager or the guy that she spoke, like the rep from the record label that she spoke to all the time? I'm not sure on the exact details.
I believe that it was. You're right. Yeah. I do believe it was her. I think it was someone at the record label. Because when they found out there was a big conspiracy, I'll let you tell the story. Go
on. Well, Kesha came out. She obviously made TikTok. What a tune! She came out.
In hindsight, it's a pretty good song.
It is.
Same birthday as me, by the way. Shout out Kesha.
Did she actually?
Yeah, 1st of March. Yeah, same. Justin Bieber as well. Just putting that out there.
Well, that's sad. I have no one. But Kesha came out years later saying that she'd been raped by the rep from the record label. I think he's called Dr. Luke or something. God knows why he's called that. But she ended up taking him to court, and I don't think he was found guilty. I can't remember the exact specifics of it.
Neither can I. He does have a happy ending though, the story, doesn't it?
Well, she wanted to leave the record label, but because, again, young girls, they sign this contract, they just think, I'm going to be famous, I'm going to help my family. That's what prime example is Kesha. She signed this record label, wasn't happy with it because obviously stuff happened. She was either sexually assaulted or raped, I think it was the second one, by this rep from the record label, and she wanted to leave and they said nope, you're not leaving, you make too much money, there's no way we're letting you off, and also you signed a contract to say you're on our record deal for life or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then she took it to court, and I think he wasn't found guilty, but I'm not sure how he wasn't found guilty, because I remember it was quite a while ago when this happened, but I was very invested in it because I like law, so I wanted to see what was going on with the case. I think her evidence was greater, but I think he just had the better lawyers and the better team. But I think she has been released from that record label now, because then after that she sort of made like an empowering album, a lot of ballads on there, about like her experience and everything. But I
believe the record label like paid her like a lot of money to drop the story as well. I don't know why that's in my head, but like I recall like her getting like a huge cash settlement or something like that as well.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think she did get a huge settlement, and I think the record label did say you can sever your ties with us, because then she did release, I can't remember what the exact album's called, but it's quite like a ballads album. It's got like songs about changing and how she's going to be better and stuff like that, and she can leave the past in the past now. But that was a prime example of, she was young, she signed a contract thinking she'd have a better life, and then something bad happened. She tried to leave that scenario, and the record label were like, nope, you signed this contract when you were like 12, now we own you, basically.
100%. Well, do you know when you talk about record labels and money and everything like that, I'm not sure if you know about this situation. I mean, you know what, you might actually, because it was massive, and I know you were quite young at the time. I mean, how old were you in like 2010, 11?
I was 10 or 11. I was born in 2000.
Right. Okay. So, you remember? You remember when Lil Wayne was like massive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, just a little bit of a backstory. Birdman had a record label called Cash Money, and then Lil Wayne had a subsidiary record label called Young Money, which he still owns to this day. But at the time, Birdman actually screwed him out of a lot of money, and one of the victims of that was a young girl that we went on to know called Nicki Minaj. I
I
think
actually haven't heard this before. This is interesting.
yeah. So basically, what happened was, it turned out that like over the years that Birdman owed Lil Wayne like around $56 million or something like that he'd been keeping from him.
Nice.
And I don't know if you remember. Do you remember? You know the song Bedrock? It was by Young Money.
Yeah, that's the tune.
Yeah, 100%. Shout out to that song. And Drake and Nicki was on it, and obviously, the only two people that really made out of Young Money was Drake and Nicki.
Yeah.
But they were really young and just getting into the business at the time. And it obviously, because it's a bit of it's a downslide effect basically. That obviously Lil Wayne was affected, so then that affected Nicki and Drake. And Nicki got absolutely screwed out of this. As I say, so did Drake. She ended up being like owed millions by Birdman and Cash Money. Just another example of a record label like screwing like young artists out of money. And it really ties into what we're talking about, like women. But you see how Nicki's turned it around now. She's like, she's one of the best, if not the best, female rapper in the music industry. But that's one of the oldest stories I can remember about a record label just absolutely just dogging someone out of millions of dollars.
Yeah. Well, they do it a lot. I don't want to get onto this topic because I'm not a big fan of her, and I know you don't like her. But Taylor Swift is another example.
You're
not
about
a
the
big
Scooter
fan.
Braun situation, aren't you?
Yeah. He manages Ariana Grande and Justin Bieber, so you'd think he knows his stuff. Obviously, he's not going to screw anyone over because he manages two of the world's biggest pop stars. But he bought out a record label with his mate that Taylor Swift had all her old albums on, and she was still signed to it. And Scooter has a lot of like bad claims against him. I'm not sure how many of it is true or not, but
It's all
Ariana,
alleged. Then just literally how when you're on like a live sort of like interview thing, just you get yourself out of situations just by saying allegedly before you say anything.
Well, yeah, I don't know enough about the whole like Scooter thing, but I'm saying allegedly as well because like Justin Bieber and Ariana Grande are still with him. Like, if some of the stuff that I've seen is half true or true, then why would they still be with him? It just makes no sense because he still manages both of them.
Of course.
So that I'm still a bit unsure on what's going on with the whole Scooter scenario. But he bought this record label out. Taylor Swift was like, "No, I'm not working with you. Move record labels." Now he said, the only way you're moving is if I get to keep all your old albums. So that's all like her old country albums and stuff like that. And she was like, "No, you're not having my albums," because she owns them at the moment.
Yeah.
Well, she doesn't.
She fought hard for him as well. I remember this.
Yeah. So the record label owned them, and she was like, "No, but they're mine. They're my hard work. They're my songs. I've wrote them. I've done all the instruments on it and stuff like that." And he was like, "Well, the only way you can get it back is either you write a new album, and once you write a new album, we own that new album, and you can get one of your old ones back. So you have to write a new album for you to earn an old one back." Makes no sense, but
which is insane.
Yeah,
it doesn't. It makes no sense, and it's insane when you think about it.
Yeah. So, like, because are they going to own the new albums? Who knows? Or is she going to own it? But they just want to profit off her, a bit like a cash cow, like Fifth Harmony were. So I'm not sure how much of like the beef with Scooter is true, but I know that was quite a big deal. They wouldn't give her give her sole ownership of her old albums. I don't know if she's got them because I don't really follow Taylor Swift.
From what I heard, it was, and I think it's still a bit of a messy situation going on, so I don't think it's completely resolved. But from what I heard, I think they came to a deal at the time where she got a certain amount back, a certain amount of the golden record back. But I do think I think it's still an ongoing situation. I don't think she's got all of her albums back yet.
Yeah, I don't think she has either. You know, Taylor Swift, she'll probably take them to court. So, who knows, but less on her because I'm not a biggest fan. She's okay. So
I'm not a biggest fan, but I'm a big advocate of people standing up for themselves. So fair play to Taylor, like not taking it lying down. You know, I mean, it is her work at the end of the day. I mean, as much as, you know, I'm not a fan of her, like millions of other people are, and you know, she's earned where she is. I mean, maybe not in the most respectable way, but you know, I mean, that's my own opinion. But she has like earned all of her albums, and she wrote all the songs, so it is hers. And for people to keep that from her, it's wrong. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, but that's just like, it's just prime example of this. Record labels do screw a lot of like girl groups or solo artists who are women over, but they also do it to the men as well. So it's just the whole record label thing is just like another talk for another time about how many people they've screwed over, because at the end of the day, the whole point of a record label is we'll put this much money into you, but you've got to make triple that, and we'll keep it all, and you'll make no profits from it, pretty much.
It's a well-known, especially in groups as well. I don't know if you knew this, but it's a well-known thing in the music industry, where for the first year or maybe even 2 years, especially groups, because there's so many of them sometimes. I mean, as you say, in One Direction there was 5, in Fifth Harmony there was 5. I don't even want to think about the Wu-Tang Clan. There was fucking 10 of them, more. But it's very well known that in the first year or two of making music, bands don't actually make a lot of money, if any. Because most of it goes on tour, and you know, paying for the the lighting crew, the camera crew, the security, the tour bus, the buffet, all the stuff, all the background stuff that you see at concerts. Like, it's very well known that like groups don't make a lot of money in the first year, and then obviously, I mean, if they carry on and they go on to big success, I mean, they get it back tenfold. But it's very hard in the first couple of years, apparently. I mean, this is what I've heard as well. I think Liam Payne, it was either Liam Payne or Zayn Malik of One Direction came out and said this, that as successful as One Direction were, and as you say, like Camila Cabello maybe will probably say the same thing about Fifth Harmony, as successful as they were, they didn't see much of the benefit of that or much of the success until a little bit while later, because it all has to kick in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, like a lot for the Fifth Harmony girls, like obviously Camila's like a year ahead of them because they still brought out an album, just the 4 of them. And they also, I think they did a tour as well, but not quite a long one as they would normally do. So Camila's like a year ahead of them in terms of the solo careers. So at the moment, she's on her 2nd album. She was meant to have her 2nd worldwide tour this year. Obviously, that got cancelled. I'm not bitter about it at all. But these girls are like still up and coming. Obviously, like I said, they're a year behind her still. So I'm still expecting like a lot of potential from them. But at the same time, they're still signed with Psycho and Epic Records. So they're still quite restricted in what they do.
Yeah.
So it's just a whole nightmare, really.
It is a whole nightmare. God, I'm just looking how long we've been talking about. I mean, I don't want to put a downer on the conversation, but I do think we've covered a lot, and it's been a really interesting conversation. I do want to end on a bit of a high note, actually, though, and this is what I was going to transition into eventually, just to take you off your feet a little bit. I'm going to give you a scenario, and you've got 3 answers. I'm going to give you 3 questions, and you've got to answer me. First of all, I say your first thought, the best thing that comes to your mind. Obviously, we can't think about it for ages, because it's the whole point of keeping you on your feet. So,
Like a lightning round.
you what? What was that?
A lightning round.
Yeah, essentially. So, this is the situation that you're in. So, you're on a cruise, and there's everyone you can think of is on there. Every music artist that you can think of is on this cruise. And all of a sudden, this massive wave just comes and just takes out this cruise ship, like just absolutely obliterates it, right? You wake up on this island, like you've lost all your possessions, like you're thinking, shit, how am I going to get off this island? Lucky enough, on this island, there's there's power and electricity and access to all your basic needs. So that's a lucky island to get stranded on. But you've got three things. You've got one album that survived in your backpack. You see a sign that says there's a concert on tonight. And next to you look up and you see one person who survived that cruise crash with you. That one person happens to be your favorite artists, or if it's a group, your favorite artists. My first question to you is, what's the album that survived the trip in your backpack?
Camila Cabello, Romance.
Okay. Second question. On the sign that says, oh, we've got a concert tonight. Oh, it's going to be great. And the person that the concert is what is it?
Madison Beer.
Any particular from? Oh, and by the way, it's a time traveling island, so it can take you to any concert that she's done, or is it a new concert?
A new concert, because I'm waiting on a new album from her.
Okay. And finally, the person who you look to who survived the crash with you.
Oh God.
Knew you'd get you eventually.
I'm just trying to... Oh. I'm
not going to do you dirty and say it's like one of your friends or one of your family. It's a celebrity, so.
I know, I'm just trying to think about it, but there's like, because Camila and like Madison are my top two favourite female artists.
Okay. Luckily, if it isn't Camila that survived with you, you've got her album to listen to for the duration of the island stay. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's some sad songs on there, so I can cry that she's dead. I'd probably say Billie Eilish. And like, I need to just find my answer because everyone thinks Billie Eilish is overrated and that she whispers. But I've seen like quite a few interviews of her. My favourite interview is the one where she does I think it's Vanity Fair, and she's done one each year, like on the same day each year for 3 years. When she was first starting out, when she was just getting going, and now when she's like as popular as she is, and her mum's in it and stuff. And she just seems like a dope person. I feel like she'd help me survive an island.
I can respect that answer. And you know what? Shout out to Billie Eilish as well. I'm not the biggest fan of her. I'm the first to admit, but she's a big advocate of. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter what your personality is. You is you, and I think that's represented in how she looks. Like she doesn't look like your average pop star.
Yeah, she did a really good video. Do you know, like on tours, or like on the concerts when they've got like videos and they go off and get changed or like freshen up or something.
Yeah.
Did a video, and obviously she wears baggy clothes. The t-shirts might look like dresses, and then she's got really baggy shorts under it. So she always wears baggy clothing because she don't want people to do what they do to Madison, which is say she's too skinny or she's not skinny enough, and like put her under a microscope. So on tour she did like this interlude video, and it was her taking off her t-shirt, and she was wearing like a quite tight vest top under it, and it was her saying like, I know you'll shame my body, but you shouldn't, and like quite inspirational words to it. So
I've not seen this.
It's quite good. I'll send it you.
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. Send me that. That's really cool.
Yeah, she's like taking off like her baggy jacket and her baggy t-shirt, and she's wearing like a low cut vest top that's obviously like quite tight. It's like one of them skin tight vest tops.
Yeah.
Like people will objectify my body now that I've done this, or they'll call me, and you call me anyway because I wear baggy clothing, but it's my body, and I can do what I want basically. It's really good though. It's not that long. I think it's like a minute and a half or something.
I like that. I like the message that like sends across as well. I like who she is. I mean, as I say, I'm not the biggest fan of her music. Don't get me wrong. Some of the songs I can dig. But I think I respect her message and her personality, because I love her in interviews. By the way, I think I can respect her personality and her look more than anything else, just because it's a perfect example of how society should view everyone. Like, it doesn't matter what you dress like, it doesn't matter what you look like, it doesn't matter what your personality is. Like, if you've got a talent, then that is what you should be judged upon. I mean, especially what we're going through now. I mean, obviously we're talking about women, but what the situation now in the world, like, people should be judged on the content of the character and not what they look like. Yeah,
totally. And like Billie Eilish does that a lot with obviously like her baggy clothes statement and stuff like that. She doesn't want to be criticised like she sees the other stars like Madison Beer or any of the girls in Little Mix or Fifth Harmony, just anyone. If they wear like a skirt, they're like, oh my god, why are you wearing a skirt? It's too short, it's too long.
Yeah, like, how dare you?
Yeah, how dare you wear women's clothing?
You want to look good? I won't allow it.
Yeah. And like, or they say a lot like, why are you wearing a boy's top? And my favourite quote to that is, why do clothes have genders?
Innit? Like, if you all look dope in like a certain like outfit, then wear it. Who cares?
Yeah, if Billie Eilish wants to wear a men's Gucci top and look great in it, then like actually it's why, just because it says men's, but clothes don't actually have genders.
I mean, look what you just bought. You just bought the Quavo Boohoo collection, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I couldn't not. Quavo's sick, but that
exactly. Like, why did you buy it? Because it looked sick. Like,
yeah. You couldn't, because it was a big top that said drip drip on the back.
Yeah, drip drip, hunch out.
Yeah, like it's stupid.
100%. Well, I'm gonna wrap it up now, because I feel like if I don't wrap it up at a certain point, I feel like this is like a really good point to wrap it up on.
Yeah. Just
because I feel like we'd be talking for hours and hours and hours if we just carried on.
Like phone calls.
Yeah, exactly. But you do have the privilege and the pleasure, Liz, of being the first guest on my podcast and on my channel in general. And what a good guest you've been. A really good conversation that we've had.
I know, I'm so honoured.
Oh, you should feel honoured.
I'm buzzing. I've been telling everyone that I'm going to become famous.
Oh, mate, you can be famous after me. I, you know what I mean? Me first. I was here first, all right?
That's what I said. I was like, Mom, I'm being famous tonight. I'm going on a famous.
People get to hear my voice. I'm going to be all over the YouTubes.
However, I won't listen to this because I don't like the sound of my own voice.
Do you know what? As I say, like, your audio sounds fine, your voice sounds fine. The topics that we've discussed, like, just like really good. I've had a really good time, like, doing conversations with people. And eventually, when all this like crisis is over, I do want to like getting, actually getting like personal with people, and then go and do interviews like on site and all that sort of stuff. But for now, that this is good enough. But I'm probably going to be cutting back to the podcast in a minute. But for now, is there anything you would like to plug, Elizabeth?
Follow LittleWrighty Customs. And if you're not following Charts Off the Radio on Twitter or Instagram, or you're not part of the Facebook group, then why are you here, bro?
I agree with all that, especially the trainers part, because I've currently got an order on the go for a few people, so, and one of those is me. So I personally endorse LittleWrighty Customs.
I know I don't even have any orders in for myself.
You've ordered plenty for yourself. I've seen how many you've done for yourself.
Yeah, fairs.
You don't need any more trainers. You'll need a massive shoe rack like me.
I do.
Oh, right. Anyway, I said we were going to wrap this up. As I said, we're getting into a completely different conversation. Right. I am going to stop the recording, cut back to CTR. I hope you enjoyed this long-ass interview. I'm not sure how long we've been going for, but I will find out when I edit this all together. Liz, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
No problem indeed. And I will chat to you guys in about 5 seconds. Peace out.
Wow, wasn't even 5 seconds, guys. That was a long ass interview on it. I really enjoyed doing it. It was absolutely an amazing chat to have. I really enjoy having guests on the show. I mean, that was the first time doing it, and it's definitely not going to be the last 100%. And I don't think it's going to be the last that Liz is going to be on the show either, because I couldn't have asked for a better guest. And if you're listening now, Liz, thank you so much, and thank you for the contribution that you did. But for now, guys, I mean, we've pretty much summed it up in the interview. But yeah, go follow LittleWrighty Customs. If you need your trainers designing by anyone, there is no one else better in the game that I know. If you want your shoes customizing, go to Lizzie's page, LittleWrighty Customs. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's Charts Upper Radio. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's the same name. And on Facebook, and blah, blah, blah. I've already said all this. I'm not going to waste most of your time. But for now, guys, I hope you enjoyed the episode. I know you love the long episodes. I love doing the long episodes. But for now, this is the last you will hear from me this weekend. Go and check out the other videos if you miss me, if you miss my voice. But for now, love you. Peace out.
The CTR Podcast.